Sunshine this evening. Hello again, everybody. Jay Randolph along with Gary Carter. And tonight, the Marlins try to get a victory. They sure could use one right now. And speaking of things that have been useful, Jerry Brown, the governor, continues to play very well.
It doesn't matter where he plays. It seems like he comes through and does the job, hitting over 300, getting the call again at third base tonight. The governor, a 5-game hitting streak, hitting .476 during that period, having a good homestand, and hopefully he can add to what they need is a little bit of offensive blurps that maybe they can pick up things tonight.
Yeah, pick it up early, let's hope. It'd be nice to have an early lead. For Cincinnati, a myriad of stars these days the way they've been going, but the man in the big shoes is Kevin Mitchell.
Top 10 in hitting and in home runs, and yesterday he has a lot of reason to be happy and laughing. This season against the Marlins, a .474 average, 3 home runs, 6 RBIs, and yesterday, folks, I'll tell you what, he had a blast, his second home run of the game that is still going in that upper deck.
An upper deck job it was of the first magnitude. The pairing tonight for the pitching, Roper, undefeated for Cincinnati, the young man from Indiana, and Gardner, 2-2. And that sets the scene.
Hi kids, Dave O'Brien here. Well, the good news is it's summer and school's out, so it's time to take off the old thinking cap and get down to some serious fun. The bad news is if you take off your thinking cap, what are you going to wear? Saturday, July 9th, when the Marlins play the Rockies, all kids 12 and under receive a Billy the Marlins batting helmet free from Burdines, part of Billy's All-Star Weekend. So come down Saturday, July 9th and get your Billy the Marlin batting helmet courtesy of Burdines. Might not make you any more intelligent, but you got to admit, it's a pretty smart-looking lid.
Nice evening for baseball. The Reds and the Marlins, a crowd coming into JRS, and tonight's starting lineup brought to you by Citgo, where you can feel the pride. It's Dion leading off, Larkin, Morris, and Mitchell. Reggie Sanders, then Fernandez, Boone, Taubency's doing the catching, and undefeated John Roper is on the mound.
For the Marlins, Conine, Carr, Sheffield from left to right. Brown, the governor, gets the call at third. Abbott, Barbary, and Dave Magadan at first tonight. Santiago catching. Mark Gardner. And Mark Gardner 2-2 on the year with a 4.44 ERA, but his last couple outings have been sensational. The 10 strikeout performance he had in Montreal won a big ball game there. On the season, you see the rest of his numbers. 38 strikeouts, just 14 base on balls. The Marlins could use a very big outing tonight from Mark Gardner.
And Gardner ready to deliver it to Deion Sanders leading off. First pitch of the game is high. Deion batting .296, 27 RBIs, 4 home runs. He's hitting .444 since returning to the lineup on Monday, batting .346 against Florida this season. He was bothered by a sore heel, but back and going good now. Just outside. 3 balls and no strikes. The Reds have been very, very tough this year. That one's in there for a strike. Jeff Kellogg, the umpire behind the plate, calling the balls and strikes tonight. Terry Tata, Eric Gregg, and Brian Gorman rounding out the crew. That missed inside, so a leadoff walk to Deion Sanders. And the Toyota keys to the game brought to you by your Florida Toyota dealers. I love what you do for me, Toyota.
Be great for Mark Gardner to have another great ball game tonight and get some key success and some production from the middle of the lineup. For the Reds, keep their winning ways, especially on the road. They're playing 500 ball, and for Johnny Roper to stay on a roll. He has been outstanding, undefeated here in '94, including his minor league stint.
Roper facing the Marlins for the first time. Here's Barry Larkin batting .286. Strike on the outside corner to Larkin, who was 3 for 5 with a home run, 2 runs, and an RBI here last night. He has hit in 25 of his last 28, batted .384 during that span, and he's hitting .458 against Florida this season. Toss over to first. Dion 32 for 43, leading the National League in stolen bases. Jammed him, and it's back in the seats. This Cincinnati club batting .291. That's the top team batting average in the league. After the barrage here last night, they've now hit 83 home runs. They're batting .295 on the road, which is the best of any team in the National League. Against right-handers, the Reds are hitting .294. That's also first.
They've got a good, well-rounded ball club, Jay, in all areas. Speed and defense. They've got the big boppers in their lineup. One of the guys they key on, of course, is Kevin Mitchell. They've got some good, solid pitching. And this John Roper kid that's throwing tonight has really been a big addition for them.
There's Mitchell, got that bat in his hand. 2 strikes the count to Larkin. Another throw over. Larkin 4 for 9 in this series. Deion Sanders also 4 for 9 in the series with the leadoff walk here. And he went around. Strikeout.
It just seemed as though in this at bat, Jay, that Larkin was trying to go to right field all the way. The high cutter that really is a bad pitch, and Larkin just could not hold up. And take a look on the computer, about a 3-inch break, but the ball never did come down. I think that Larkin was probably looking for the breaking ball, didn't get it, but still, like I said, could not hold up.
Here's Hal Morris batting .354, and it's high to Morris. 3 for 5 last night. He homered. He had 3 RBIs. He's 4 for 8 in the series. 60 RBIs, 6 home runs. Morris with a 7-game hitting streak, batting .440. Another toss over to first. The Reds with a record of 49 and 33, leading the Central Division.
And for a guy that doesn't hit a lot of home runs, Hal Morris, he hit one to straightaway center field in yesterday's game.
And a toss over there. Dave Magadan at first base tonight. Coaching over there is Joel Youngblood. That's Knight, who is coaching at third. There's Youngblood. Throw to first. Dion's back in time. 1 ball and 1 strike.
The trademark of Benny Santiago, and seeing Sanders get off, and then the quick throw down there, the slap tag by Magadan, but he just gets back in barely, and it looked awfully close on the replay, Jay, that he may not have gotten that hand back in. Oh!
Well, Dion is working hard over there as Gardner is keeping him close.
Oh!
1 ball and 1 strike. 1 on and 1 out.
Guess you could hear him yelling all the way up here, huh, Jay, when he was trying to get back to first base.
Yeah, I noticed that the other day here.
Yeah. Maybe that's a little bit of the football that's coming out of him.
Does he yell no or oh?
I think it's oh.
Okay. Time was called. Talking about this .295 average on the road for these Reds and .294 against right-handers. The league average for the top team is .267, And Cincinnati, of course, has a team overall 291. The Marlins are hitting 264 as a unit. 2 balls and 1 strike.
There was someone that asked Kevin Mitchell last night whether or not he felt that he deserved to be in the All-Star game, and he was talking more in regard to Hal Morris, the year that he's had.
Well, you could make an argument.
Oh yeah, 354 average, 6 home runs, 60 RBIs. He deserves to be there. Then you look at Kevin Mitchell, a 330 average, 21 home runs, 48 RBIs. He can carry a ball club.
Between the two of them, 108 RBIs already.
Yep.
And let's see, 27 home runs. There goes Dion. They pitched out, and he is out. Well, Rene Latchman has been doing some nice work calling the pitch outs here in this series.
Yeah, Bobby Nadel had a great day the other day, throwing out 4 runners at second. This time the throw by Santiago right on the bag, and the good quick tag there by Kurt Abbott, and Sanders goes down. Caught stealing for the 12th time now, Jay, on the year.
3 balls and 1 strike, and the walk to Morris. The second given up by Gardner. So Morris is at first with 2 gone.
The pitch out is perfect. Santiago steps out from behind the plate and fires towards second, and that's where you want to throw the ball, on the second base side. And as you can see, Sanders never even reached the bag. Good throw, good tag, all around good play.
Here's Mitchell batting .330. The big bopper. 3 for 4 here last night. A strike to Mitchell. The 2 home runs, the 1 gigantic shot into the upper deck. 3 RBIs.
Yeah, that brought his teammates out of their seats in the dugout just to look and see how far it was going to go and where it was going to end up landing.
Way wide, 1 ball and 1 strike. Kevin Mitchell with a .683 slugging percentage. That's second in the National League. Low. 2 balls and 1 strike.
There's no question, Jay, when you look at Kevin Mitchell, he's a very intimidating figure at the plate, and you really have to be very careful and cautious as to where you locate the ball. He likes the ball middle in, where he can extend those big arms and get that bat going.
Mitchell fouls this one back. It's 2-2. Mitchell batting .182 against Gardner. He's 2 for 11.
In Mark Gardner's previous 2 games, Jay, in Montreal, he didn't walk anybody. In his last outing, he did walk 1. Already in this ball game, first inning, he's walked 2. And it just seems as though that's what the Reds are trying to make him do, is throw strikes. Don't see too many swings. That 1 big swing by Mitchell is about the only great cut that we've seen. Sanders, he took every pitch that Gardner threw.
Foul out of play. Colorado beat Chicago 7-1 today. San Diego over Philadelphia. Final there was 5-2. Pittsburgh defeated Atlanta 3-1 in the first of 2. Atlanta's leading 2-1 third inning in the second game. Houston, St. Louis, New York, San Francisco, Montreal, and LA later. Ooh, that just missed. Full count.
You just mentioned about Colorado, and we're going to take another look on this replay here. The breaking ball that looks like it just misses, but Galarraga hit a 3-run homer in there and put his RBI total over 70. So there's your argument. First baseman that was chosen, Greg Jeffries. Bagwell is the backup, and then there's Morris. And Santiago didn't need to throw that ball into center field because there was already 3 out.
Strikeout number 2. We'll return after this message from Sherwin-Williams Paint Stores. Heading into the bottom of the first inning, and tonight's starting lineup is brought to you by Citgo, where you can feel the pride. Carr leads off, followed by the Governor, Jerry Brown, Sheffield, Conine, Magadan, Santiago. Kurt Abbott's at short and Brett Barbary at second. Mark Gardner doing the pitching.
And for the Reds, Mitchell, Sanders, and Sanders. Dion in center, Reggie in right. Good speed out there. Fernandez gets the call at third. Larkin, Boone, and Morris on the infield. Taubensee will get the call behind the plate, catching Johnny Roper. And this young man, a good fastball, the knuckle curve and change. A very good athlete, has excellent movement on all of his pitches. There you see what he's done on the season. The rest of his numbers: 21 base on balls, 33 strikeouts.
And 0-2 to Carr. Chuck batting .282, .296 in his last 58 games. 2 for 10 in this series. Roper is trying for his team high 6th consecutive victory. He's not been defeated in his 9 starts. That's low. He was called up from AAA Indianapolis May the 20th, and his 5-0 record is the best start in the season by a Reds pitcher since Jack Armstrong, the former Marlin, opened the '90 campaign with a 5-0 record. Hit on the ground. Boone comes up with it, throws quickly in time. Boone knew he didn't have much time, and he had to whip that ball over there to Morris.
Folks at home saw that graphic in his 9 starts. The Reds have 8 victories, so they like to play behind him as Brett Boone makes the good throw to Morris to retire Carr on the ground ball.
86 degrees. Light winds out of the southeast. 20% chance of showers this evening as Jerry Brown stands in, batting .308. The Governor is 5 for 7 in this series, now has 22 RBIs on the year.
10 for 21 lifetime against the Reds too, Jay. 476 average with a couple of RBIs.
And as we mentioned, this is first time that Roper has faced the Marlins. 2 balls and no strikes. 4 of Roper's 7 major league victories have come against the Colorado Rockies. His last win was at Pittsburgh on the 1st. It's his 5th season of pro ball. That's low. Roper was a 12th round draft choice in the June '90 draft, and he was named by the league managers as the best pitching prospect in his league in each of the first 3 years of playing professional baseball. That one's in there.
Well, let me tell you a couple of other things about him. This had a great homestand, but also about Roper. He was in a car accident, Jay, a couple of years ago, and really severely hurt his back. And it altered his motion and his delivery and a number of things. He was one of the first Reds that were sent down at the beginning of spring training, and one of the reasons was it was a wake-up call to him. They didn't like his work ethic. They said go down there, work on some things, and here he is back with them and doing an outstanding job. It kind of reminds me of what the Dodgers did to Raul Mondesi a couple years ago.
Brown bangs it into center field, a 1-out single. Well, it may be a little tough for Roper to concentrate tonight. Look again.
Yep. The fastball out over the plate. Jerry Brown worked the count again. And as you saw that earlier graphic, having an outstanding homestand as well as continuing to hit well against these Cincinnati Reds.
Roper's wife is in Indianapolis and about to deliver a child. Oh, he's, I'm sure, got some thoughts there. Roper is 22 years old, from Southern Pines, North Carolina. Beautiful community in the Sandhills near Pinehurst.
Jay's geography class again.
Nice part of the world.
Well, isn't that where you're from? Is that around that area, North Carolina?
Well, I'm from West Virginia, Washington,
D.C. But I mean, you've been around.
Spent a lot of time.
Spent a lot of time.
Spent a lot of time hitting golf balls in those Sandhills. Yes, sir. 2 balls and no strikes. That's in there. Sheffield with a .277 average, 4-game hitting streak. batting .278. 29 of his 57 hits, of course, have been for extra bases. Brown at first. Been a frustrating time for Sheffield. The 2 trips to the DL, trying to carry this ball club, and a little tough for him, but last evening criticized for his play in right field. He's still learning to play right field, of course, and he has been ordered not to leave his feet out there, and that changes everything.
Well, and I was talking to him earlier in the clubhouse, and he said that Rene came up to him and actually asked him, could he have caught those balls? And he didn't think so, so Latch was happy with the answer.
Brown was running on this play. Sheffield is out as Fernandez makes the play across the diamond to Morris. 5-3. Brown at second with 2 gone for Jeff Conine.
On the 3-2 count, Sheffield rips it down the third baseline, but Fernandez is right there and makes the strong throw on to Morris. Sheffield trying to avoid the throw and went to the inside part of the bag, and Hal Morris with a good play.
Fernandez hasn't been too thrilled about playing third base, but he's been playing a nice third base for this Cincinnati Reds club. Here's Conine batting .311. Inside, a little low, ball 1.
Well, as a lot of people know, Tony Fernandez dances to his own tune, and sometimes he doesn't particularly care for people talking about him in different manners, and Tony will be the first one to speak his own mind. In fact, there's been times where earlier in the year where he even packed his bags.
That's right.
And said, see ya, I'm out of here. And yet they said, well, that's just Tony, and you have to accept that. But you're right, he's done a great job for Davey Johnson and these Cincinnati Reds.
2 balls and no strikes. Foul back.
Especially with the departed Chris Sabo, who went off to Baltimore as a free agent.
Rockies and the Marlins tomorrow. David Need against Scheid, the young man who's coming from Edmonton. Then it'll be Pater against Weathers. Saturday, Freeman against Rapp. No television for Sunday's game. And they asked for the appeal. Terry Tata at first said no, he didn't go around. 3 balls and 1 strike. Brown out there at second. Bottom of the first inning. Marlins, who have lost 13 of their last 16. And it's a foul ball. Oh, that was close. Well, Gary, good to know Louis Aquino again today. Pitched well. Hopefully he'll be back soon. The outlook for Bowen is not good, and Hammond went home to Birmingham. His family chiropractor working on him there. He feels much better. There's the update on Aquino today, pitching in the Gulf Coast League for Brevard. But Hammond told me he feels much better, but I think realistically we're talking certainly about 3 weeks before he is able to come back. Conine strikes out. Scoreless at the end of the first. We'll return after this from Miller Brewing Company. Before we go to the top of the second, a reminder, you get free tickets, 4 of them, to see the Marlins play the Cardinals August 9th in the General Mills Game of the Month sweepstakes. Simply stop by a participating Sedano's supermarket, fill out the entry form. No purchase is necessary, and take home a box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Or if you're superstitious, maybe some Lucky Charms. Here's Reggie Sanders. Reggie batting .276. Hit in 4 of his last 6 games. Batted .375. He's 2 for 7 in this series. That one's high. At Atlanta, where they are playing 2. The first one went to Pittsburgh 3-1. In the second game, Atlanta leads 3-1. They're going into the 4th inning. That part of the country really had a lot of the heavy residue and rain from the Alberto storm. A lot of problems there south of Atlanta. They're getting them in there today. And it'll be rough for some of those folks the south of Atlanta with all that flooding. That's inside. Full count. Oakland's leading the Yankees 3-1. They're in the 4th inning at Yankee Stadium. California leads Boston 2-0. 3rd inning at Fenway. Way outside, and Gardner has given up his 3rd walk. Reminder to join us on Sunshine both Friday and Saturday. The Rockies and the Marlins are pregame at 7 on Friday night and 6:30 on Saturday. Our final 2 telecasts on Sunshine before the All-Star break. And of course, we have our All-Star special coming up for you here on Sunshine also. Tony Fernandez batting .299. Our All-Star special on Monday, the All-Star Eve at 8:30 Eastern Time. Sanders at first. Deion Sanders started the game with a walk and was thrown out trying to steal. Now Reggie Sanders walks here to start the 2nd. And it is obvious that Gardner is struggling with his control early on. Fernandez with a 6-game streak going and batting .560 over that span. Ray Knight, his lovely wife, great star of the LPGA Tour, Nancy Lopez. And the nicest couples in sport. These 2 folks.
I thought you and Sue were.
Well, we're not really in sport.
Yes, you are.
I don't participate anymore.
Hey, you were a great golfer, almost turned pro that one time.
That was a long time ago. Yep.
That's in sport.
Yeah. 2 balls and no strikes. Seattle at Baltimore. They're underway and scoreless after an inning. Toronto at Minnesota later. Cleveland at Texas later. That catches the outside corner. 2 balls and 1 strike. Tony Fernandez has added a lot of speed to an already quick lineup in Cincinnati. Came over from Toronto. Fernandez 3 for 7 in this series. Throw to first, back in time. 3 balls and 1 strike. Chicago's playing at Detroit. They're in the 3rd inning. Tigers leading 1-0.
Another quick throw behind Fernandez to try and get Sanders at first, but gets back safely.
Runner going. Out. That was a bang play. Barbary got the ball at the same time Reggie Sanders was there.
Sanders with a pretty good jump at first base, and Santiago just fired out of there. Standing up and firing this ball right on the money. That's the only way they were going to get Sanders, and Barbary blocked off the base pretty well. Good play all the way around.
Popped out of play into the left field stands. Santiago has thrown out 2 tonight in 2 innings. Nice action. And that was a fine play by Santiago. Reggie Sanders had a big jump.
Might have been a reason why Santiago threw the ball after strike 3 on Mitchell, just to get a little bit of extra practice, I guess.
Hey, whatever. 2 fine plays back at the plate tonight in the early going.
Well, in the first 5 hitters too, Jay, Mark Gardner's either walked him or struck him out. And then needed a couple of throwouts by Santiago.
That's all we've had. Another payoff pitch coming. And down the line in left and over right in front of the dugout there, or in front of the bullpen, I should say. Last year the Reds were 7-5 against the Marlins. They were 3-3 here in Florida. Roper has faced every team in the National League except Chicago now, as he's facing Florida for the first time. Fernandez is out 4-3. We're talking about our Florida Marlins All-Star Special. We'll be recapping the season up to now. Look at the All-Stars, 8:30 Eastern Time. We'll have a report from Portland, an update on the Edmonton Club. Dave Dombrowski, president of the Marlins, Don Smiley, Jeff Conine. A lot of interesting guests in that program. Hope you can join yours truly and Gary Carter Monday evening at 8:30 here on Sunshine. Brett Boone batting .312. Out to Abbott. Deep in the hole. He throws right on target. They're down 1-2-3. An inning and a half has been played. No score here at JRS. Sunshine Network's presentation of the Marlins from Joe Robbie Stadium. A scoreless game, and Florida Marlins baseball is brought to you in part by Citgo, where you can feel the pride. Dave Magadan lead it off, bottom of the second inning, followed by Santiago and Abbott. Magadan hitting .417 over the last week, .268 on the year, 14 RBIs and a home run. Little high. Marlins now with a record of 20-24 at home. They're 31-33 on grass. 31-23 against right-handed starters this year. And 28-32 playing night baseball.
Well, one of the problems here in this series, though, Jay, first two games of this series, the Marlins have stranded 22. Only hit 136, 3 for 22 with runners in scoring position.
It's been a big problem. 12 left on here on July 4th, and you mentioned a whole batch again yesterday. Very frustrating. Larkin and Magadan grounds out, 6-3.
I mean, ball clubs will go through this period of time. A lot of the blame you could put on was due to the injuries early on, but yet the ball club kept their heads above water, kept playing very well. So you can't really blame the injury factor.
Well, I think the injury factor has been an important situation from the standpoint the club just has not gotten very good pitching lately, and when you get behind early, it's a problem. Of course, another problem when you're not scoring any runs, it's a problem, and it's all come together here at this time, and that's why they've only won 3 of their last 16. Benito Santiago. Benny hits it down to Fernandez, and quickly there are 2 gone. Santiago coming in with that .270 average tonight.
Good riding fastball here from Roper that tails in on Santiago, breaks his bat, and grounds easily to Fernandez.
Kurt Abbott's batting .241. He has hit in 8 of his last 11 games. Batted .250 during that span. 7 home runs for Abbott. Strike on the inside corner.
Also, with this recent dry spell, Jay, team has fallen into last place for the first time since April the 15th.
Right. That's foul back.
And I'm sure that there are some disenchanted fans, especially last night. You had mentioned about Gary Sheffield and a couple of balls falling in front of him that the fans themselves thought that he should have caught. But that's going to happen when the ball club struggles like that.
3 groundouts in the second inning. And after 2, no score. We'll be back. Marlins baseball from JRS this evening here on Sunshine. Eddie Taubensee. First pitch is a little outside for ball 1 to Taubensee. Hitting .318 in his last 6 starts. .271 on the season. Ball 2. Taubensee has 6 home runs. That caught the outside corner. 12 RBIs. He's 0 for 4 in the series. Taubensee came over from the Houston Astros. 25-year-old Texan. He's a graduate of Lake Howell High here in Florida. Into the hole. And a leadoff single for Taubensee, and that'll give Roper the opportunity to move him along. Roper's been a good hitter this year.
He's a good athlete, but this is one thing you don't see Taubensee do very often, and that's go opposite field. The breaking ball and stayed right with it. Good job of hitting by Taubensee.
Roper batting .263, has a couple of RBIs. He'll be sacrificing here. Popped it up, and Santiago makes a fine play. Well, Benny showed his quickness there. Oh, what an outstanding job to get to that ball.
This might be one of the toughest plays for a catcher, especially with a short distance right behind him. But he recognized the ball was bunted upward. He stepped forward, but then came back strong and made the great diving effort. What a good play by Santiago. Another look, stepped forward and recognized where it was, and then came out there and made the great play.
And Kevin Rand, the assistant trainer, out attending to him. Well, you don't need any more injuries. Tell you.
I
He's
just
all
think
right.
really what happened was that he got the wind knocked out of him.
Yeah, he's shaking up a little bit. Boy, he took it. Boy, he took a real bang there. Yeah, against the chest.
Fine play, though.
Outstanding. Oh, back to the top of the order we go to Deion Sanders. Deion walked in the first and then was thrown out trying to steal. Deion talking with Santiago. Outside, ball 1. And ball 2. Gardner fighting the control problems here. Not as sharp as we have seen him, but hanging tough. That's outside. 3-0. Now Santiago talking things over with Gardner. Taubensee is at first base. He led off this third inning with the first hit for the Cincinnati Reds. that Pittsburgh-Atlanta game, the second game. Pittsburgh won the first 3-1. Atlanta's leading 3-1, fifth inning at Fulton County Stadium. 3-1 the count. And that is the fourth walk given up by Gardner. And the second time he's passed Sanders. Deion Sanders.
Yeah, make sure you
He also
say
walked
the right one.
Reggie Sanders.
And both times were caught stealing by Santiago.
That's
so
right.
There you go.
So it's 2 on, 1 out for Barry Larkin, who struck out in the first. It ricochets up. Brown can't make a play in time, and the bases are loaded. A base hit for Barry Larkin. Larkin at first. Deion is at second. Taubensee at third.
This had a major splat sound that gets Gardner right in the derriere. Ricocheted to Brown, and Brown had no play. Let me tell you this, Jay, I'm sure that Mark Gardner is definitely going to feel that, and he will have the likes of it shown. I'm sure if anyone wants to look, he'll proudly show where he got hit.
It might be a little black and blue.
Oh,
right.
yes, he will.
Well, now a major problem as Gardner throws a few times to make sure everything's all right. Hal Morris will come to the plate with the bases loaded and 1 out here in the third inning. And Morris walked back in the first. Morris, who had a lot of problems with his left shoulder last year, done a nice job so far this season, batting .354 coming into this game. Ball 1 to him. Taubensee, Deion Sanders, and Barry Larkin on the base paths. Reds with a big threat here in the third. Double play ball. Barbary over to Abbott, back to first. The double play, number 82 on the season. It's still a scoreless game, and we'll be back with more here at JRS right after these messages. Before we go to the bottom of the third here, just going to take a look at a nice double play.
And that it was a good flip from Barbary onto Abbott. Hal Morris hit into the perfect, as you have said many a time, for the pitcher, the perfect double play ball.
Yes, sir. It's a pitcher's best friend. Barbary, Gardner, and Carr. Bottom of the third inning. Brett Barbary batting .271, hitting .333 over the last week. Barbary was hit by a pitch last night on the outside of his knee. Said he was okay. We're talking to him this evening. Low for a ball. Barbary 1 for 7 in this series. Out into left. Barbary with a second hit for the Marlins, and that will give Gardner an opportunity to move him along in this scoreless game.
This is one of the reasons why the Marlins had drafted Brett Barbary in last year's draft, is that he can go to all fields and was known to be a 300 hitter. He has struggled a little bit at that mark, but has been hitting well on this homestand, and that base hit right there will get him up into the mid 270s. And I think that ball hit him.
It did. He'll go down to first.
My gosh, he's going to have to get some major ice bags after the game, Mark Gardner. This ball just gets away from Roper, and got Gardner up around the chest area. Wow. Take another look from the behind the plate camera. Whoa, that almost got him in the face too, the way he squares around like that. Caught him pretty good, I guarantee it. But the one thing about Mark Gardner, he is tough as nails.
Chuck Carr grounded out in the first. Now they want to have a meeting at the mound. All the infielders coming in to visit with Roper.
And with Chuck Carr struggling, Jay, I would be up there thinking that Carr is going to try and advance the runners right here. His average has dropped down to 281. It seems like just yesterday he was up around 350.
The bunt is foul.
But you see, don't try and bunt for the base hit. Get the job done. Bunt the ball on the ground and advance the runners.
Don't want to get too greedy in this situation.
Well, no, now he's strike one, and that's because he tried to be too fine. See, he was bunting and running at the same time. If you're going to sacrifice, get the bunt down.
He swings away here. Play to second to get the middle man. Well, took off the bunt. Carr reaches on the fielder's choice.
I'm not so sure, Jay, if the bunt was ever put on.
Maybe you're right. He might have just been bunting on his own there at the beginning.
But a good play by Boone to get the one lead runner in Gardner, and Larkin knew with the speed of Carr was not going to be able to complete the double play, and now runners at the corners for the Governor, who has hit in 15 of his last 16 games, a 383 average. A great opportunity for him here to hopefully give the Marlins the early lead.
And Brown is now 6 for 8 in this series after singling in the first. A strike at the letters. Barbary at third. Carr over at first.
Jerry Brown has also been outstanding with runners in scoring position, a 348 average with 19 of his 22 RBIs.
The Marlins as a team with men in scoring position are hitting 260. The league average is 264. And the best team in all of the National League, batting 306 as a team with men in scoring position, are the Cincinnati Reds.
Well, that's one of the reasons, Jay, right there, why they're in first place. And well deserved.
They pitched out, nothing shaking. Cookie Rojas down at third. One ball and one strike. Runners at first and third, one out. Bottom of the third inning, a scoreless game. Hits even at 2 apiece. That's high to Brown. Kind of tied him in a knot. 2 balls and 1 strike. Brown's average up to 311. The Governor has been a handy man to have around. All of the injuries. And it goes for the double play. They had him played perfectly. That ball almost over the bag at second, but Larkin was there. We're still scoreless. And we'll return after this from Great Western Bank. Joe Robbie Stadium, Sunshine Network with the Marlins. Sherwin-Williams game summary brought to you by your local Sherwin-Williams paint stores. The pros know. Ask Sherwin-Williams. Gardner has been able to pitch around 4 walks. Scoreless game. Each club with 2 hits. And young lady enjoying herself tonight here at the yard. Mitchell.
The old Nook.
Mitchell grounds to Barbary. And he is the first out here in the 4th inning.
I don't think Kevin Mitchell has figured out Mark Gardner either. Before that at bat, 2 for 12, a 166 average. Take another look at this inning-ending double play that Jerry Brown hit. Ball hit sharply up the middle that Larkin played him perfectly, ranged a little bit to his left, flipped to Brett Boone, and just an outstanding play all the way around.
Reggie Sanders walked and was thrown out stealing back in the 2nd inning. Swing and a miss as Gardner took a little something off that one.
That was also Gardner's 56th pitch on the evening.
Well, I want to thank Marilyn Overton of Tampa for a wonderful card she sent us, Gary, with a great picture of downtown Tampa. Got a lot of fans over the Tampa St. Petersburg area. Good to hear from her. Very kind.
Oh, that is nice.
2 strikes to Reggie Sanders. Way outside. Gardner with a record of 2-2 coming into this one tonight. He opened the year in the Marlins bullpen and made 6 relief appearances. Foul back against the screen. Atlanta now leading 4-1 over Pittsburgh, and they are going to the 6th inning at Fulton County Stadium in the Georgia capital. Pittsburgh won the first game 3-1. Just missed outside. 2-2. And 3-2. At Detroit, the Tigers are leading 1-0, and they're batting in the bottom of the 4th. Oakland 3, New York 1. That action taking place at Yankee Stadium. They're in the 5th. California leading Boston 3-2, 4th inning at Boston. Milwaukee at Kansas City scoreless after the 1st. Fouled away. Seattle leads Baltimore 1-0, 3rd inning. And it's Minnesota 2, Toronto 1. Minnesota batting in the bottom of the 2nd at Minnesota. No score here at JRS. Top of the 4th inning. Another foul out of play. We'll be with you on Friday. The Rockies and the Marlins with the pregame. Lou Palmer coming your way at 7. And then on Saturday evening, the pregame show at 6:30. So 2 games coming up for you. The Rockies and the Marlins here on Sunshine Friday and Saturday evening. Hope you can join us. Pretty good battle going on here between Gardner and Reggie Sanders.
Got that right. Sanders giving these fans quite a few souvenirs.
Gardner's throwing a lot of pitches.
13 batters, 8 of them full counts.
Pointed out early, he was fighting his control a little bit. His 65th pitch in the game coming up. Time called. Plate umpire tonight, Jeff Kellogg. Here's one down the line in left, and it is off the wall. Conine gets it on the hop and throws in, but not in time. It is a stand-up double for Reggie Sanders. Hard hit ball.
This guy Reggie Sanders can look so bad on some pitches and then just hammer other ones like he does there on that middle end fastball. Sanders picks up his 17th double on the year, and because the high bound on that ball coming to Conine, that allowed Sanders to also get the double.
Sanders out there at second with one gone for Tony Fernandez, who grounded out in the second inning. Outside for ball one. A little low. Like to remind you that those Colorado Rockies are playing very good baseball. They're an interesting team to watch, and there are plenty of tickets for the series with the Rockies that will take us through to the All-Star break.
A couple of guys that have carried them: Andres Galarraga, Dante Bichette. Bichette, the only sole representative for the Rockies in the All-Star game. Charlie Hayes, another fine season. Howard Johnson picked up his 10th home run on a pinch hit home run in Chicago. They've got a good ball club, Jay.
Indeed.
What they're really lacking is their pitching overall, but they put a pretty good lineup out there every day.
Sure do. And Gardner now has walked 5.
Still no action down in the Marlins pen. Latchman has to be wondering what to do. He was hoping to get a good solid 7 or 8 innings out of Mark Gardner tonight, but he might have to go to his pen early again.
Brett Boone grounded out in the second. He's 0 for 7 in the series. Missed inside.
And nobody knows Brett Boone's swing better than Father Bob, who I asked before the game, Frank Rehberger, on his way out there to try and settle Mark Gardner down a little bit. But I asked him before the game, and I said, does Brett confide in you quite often about the way he hits or approaches his hitting? And he said, well, if he doesn't, then I come over to him and I put my finger into his chest. And I say, you better listen to me, son. And it's kind of interesting to hear some of the comments that Bob made. But of course, he admires him greatly and doing a great job here for these Cincinnati Reds. Bob, the longtime catcher, see what he's doing. He's talking to another catcher right now, and Brian Dorsett. But Brett Boone, under the tutelage of his father, I'm sure he's been very pleased to have been able to go to him on many occasions. And he tries to tame his temper down, is what he does more than anything.
That one's in there, 1-1.
I said, Booney, you mean Brett has a temper? Come on. Didn't you raise him in the household to
His daddy could get pretty fiery.
Oh, I know that. We all can.
Good competitor.
Yep.
The 1-1 pitch. And it's a fair ball just inside the line. Reggie Sanders will score. They're waving Fernandez home. The ball down into the corner, dug out too late, and it's 2-0 Cincinnati. Well, Conine had trouble getting it out of the corner. You knew Sanders would score, but Fernandez scores all the way from first.
And Ray Knight had his flag waving because this ball right inside the third baseline and down in that corner. Conine does a good job of getting it in quickly, but Fernandez's speed gets the other run scored. Reggie Sanders there you saw scoring easily, and here comes Fernandez. The 18th double for Brett Boone and a couple of more RBIs gives him 47 now, Jay, on the year.
And the Reds up 2-0. And here's Eddie Taubensee, who singled and was stranded at third in the third inning. And he rips this one into right. And here comes Brett Boone. That makes it 3-0, and it's a double for Taubensee. What's going on here?
Well, whatever Frank Rehberger said to Mark Gardner, maybe he said to throw strikes, and when he does, he's getting hit. That pitch left out over the plate, and Taubensee took care of the rest.
RBI number 13 on the year for Taubensee.
And his 6th double on the year, drives in another one and gives the Reds the 3-0 lead now. Eddie Taubensee has been doing great in his starts. His last 7 that he has started for Davey Johnson, 8 for 23, a 348 average. So he has done quite a fine job. And in his 29 starts with the Reds overall, 309 average. So getting some playing time coming over from the Houston Astros, Eddie Taubensee has done a great job.
Matthews up and throwing. John Roper at the plate, swings and misses. 0-2. Roper, as we mentioned, pretty good hitter, batting .263 with a couple of RBIs. Trying to bunt, he popped out on a great play by Santiago back in the third. Trying to pick up Taubensee out there. This is outside. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Slashed foul. Another one foul. That one right back over the screen.
This guy John Roper, Jay, last year in a trial with the Reds was 2-5, but earned a promotion earlier by going 7-0 with a 2.17 ERA, and he's done a fine job here with the Reds, but goes down on strikes on a good curveball there by Gardner.
That is the 3rd strikeout for Gardner.
I think that Mr. Roper knew. He kind of had his derriere in the dugout, but he had his heart in it, just couldn't pull the trigger.
Deion Sanders has walked twice. In the first, he was thrown out trying to steal. In the third, he was stranded at second. Taubensee out there at second with 2 out, 3 runs home here in the top of the 4th. Curveball is in there. Deion, of course, traded to the Reds in the Roberto Kelly deal last May 30th. Good deal for both clubs. Back out of play. Deion, born in Fort Myers, Florida. The 0-2 pitch. Jammed him. Foul, and a nice play made by one of the ball boys down there. Deion steps back in. Just low. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
I remember when Deion was first signed with Atlanta, that he was really a very aggressive type hitter and has become a lot more patient at the plate.
Pops this one up, and there'll be no play behind the dugout. Well, I think Sanders has been going through a maturing process, certainly at Atlanta, then getting traded, playing now under Davey Johnson. This guy used to pout a lot when he didn't get his way and things weren't going well.
Yeah, but Davey Johnson said, Jay, that he is nothing but a great influence on this ball club.
I had him say the same thing to me, and I think it's a credit to the way this fella has matured. Popped up. Down at first, Magadan in fair territory. But it's 3 runs on 3 hits, and after 3.5, the Reds lead at 3-0. The Reds have broken through to lead 3-0. You fans remember to bring your packed suitcase and passport to Gate D at JRS by 6:30 before every Friday Marlins home game to register to win the 3-day instant weekend vacation for 2 and a cruise for a future date prior to the start of this Friday's game against the Colorado Rockies. A winner and a guest will be whisked away on a trip sponsored by our friends at American Airlines and Royal Caribbean. Roper now staked to a 3-0 advantage by his mates. Will face Sheffield, Conine, and Magadan, the heart of the Marlin order here in the bottom of the 4th. Sheffield grounded out back in the 1st.
And through 4 innings, or 3 innings, Roper has thrown 41 pitches, 23 of them for strikes. Has 7 ground ball outs, no fly ball outs yet, Jay.
Ball 1 to Sheff. And here's one that is foul.
That's that knuckle curveball, and for the folks at home that does not know how a knuckle ball or a knuckle curve acts, it's like the big drop. It's held like a knuckleball. See the intenseness from Gary Sheffield, thinking, well, is it going to stay fair? Nope, just foul. But it's thrown very hard, like Charlie Huff will throw it of variations of speeds. The knuckle curve is thrown extremely hard.
2 balls and 1 strike. Into center field. Dion coming on. Out number 1. Conine struck out to end the 1st inning. He bats with nobody on, 1 out. Conine has tied his career high with 12 homers. And this is into center field. Conine at first with 1 out. Conine's 24 homers are 3 shy of the current Marlins career record of 27 held by Sheffield.
And a good solid hit by Conine. First pitch hitting on the fastball and driving it into left center. Sanders got over to it quickly, but good job for Conine there.
Conine headed to Pittsburgh for the All-Star game. Barry Larkin and Jose Rio will represent the Reds. Dave Magadan grounded out back in the 1st, and they turn the double play. Good job. Cincinnati leads 3-0. Now this from the Olive Garden Italian Restaurants. Our score, Cincinnati 3, Florida nothing. And tonight's scoreboard brought to you by Gatorade Thirst Quencher. Nothing quenches that deep down body thirst better than Gatorade. Colorado over Chicago 7-1. San Diego beat Philadelphia. Pittsburgh won the first of 2 at Atlanta. They're just getting underway at St. Louis. Later action at San Francisco and LA. Detroit leading Chicago. Oakland over New York. California over Boston. And it is Barry Larkin. He'll be followed by Morris and Mitchell. Larkin is struck out and lined back to The box, ball hit Gardner, bounded away, got an infield single. That was back in the third inning. 2 balls and 1 strike. Three and 1.
Barry Larkin has had himself a pretty good season against the Marlins. 12 for 25, a .480 average, home run and 3 RBIs.
The walk is the 6th given up by Gardner. And the leadoff man is on here in the 5th.
Take another look at this double play ball. Magadan. What makes this play right here is Boone. The perfect throw to Larkin, and Larkin even off stride a little bit, makes the good solid throw off to Hal Morris, and that's a pretty good had something on it being off balance like that too.
Morris has walked and hit into a double play. Low for ball 1. With the walk to Barry Larkin here, the Reds have had the leadoff man on in 4 of the first 5 innings. Richie Lewis up and throwing in the Marlin pen. Couple of more scores from our Gatorade scoreboard. Seattle and Baltimore 1-1 in the 4th. They're scoreless at Kansas City in the 3rd. Minnesota leads Toronto. Cleveland and Texas just getting underway. 2 balls and no strikes.
There's no question this is the most base on balls that Mark Gardner has had this year in one ball game. Back on May the 25th, just 1 walk. May the 31st, 2 walks. June the 6th, 3 walks. And 1 walk in Montreal, no walks in Atlanta against Atlanta on the 1st of July. 92 pitches on the night already.
And this is 93, and it is high into left field for Conine, coming over near the line. Makes the play. You could tell early, Gary, we mentioned it, that he seemed to be having control problems early.
Well, that will happen from time to time, and it's a matter if one pitch is not working for you, hopefully you can revert to the other one. And
we saw that the other day here when Rapp struggled early and made a couple of adjustments. Mitchell has struck out and grounded out. That's low.
See, the way I used to work a pitcher is that if he didn't have his best stuff on a given night, you stay with one pitch for a while until maybe the other one comes back in the later innings. If he's got his curveball working with at one particular time, stay with it. Maybe his fastball is not his best pitch, or then as Mark Gardner has 4 different pitches, the fastball, the curveball, the slider, and he's got the split finger. Well, just use the pitch until something works and then go later on. Don't forget about the other pitches, but at the same token, you have to do that from time to time.
He went around. 2 balls and 1 strike. Mitchell only played in 93 games in his first season with the Reds. Injuries began last year for him in spring training when he had that broken bone in his left foot. Already in this inning, 11 pitches have been thrown and 8 of them have been balls. So Gardner continues to battle his control problems here. Three and 1.
Well, we'll see if Barry Larkin is on his horse from first base. with the full, or with the 3-1 count, you would say that Mitchell got to be looking for his pitch here.
There goes Larkin, and safe. Stolen base for Larkin. Got a pretty good jump. 3-2 count.
Yeah, he really did get a good jump right here. Looks back to see if Mitchell did swing, and he did, but Larkin got his arm and his hand in there. The 19th stolen base on the year. He's only been caught stealing twice.
Pretty clever out there on the bases. Now a payoff pitch coming to Kevin Mitchell. Cincinnati leading 3-0. Time called. Jammed him, he fouled it back.
Santiago going out to have a word with Gardner. Generally, the book on Kevin Mitchell, as I have said, he likes to extend those arms, but most of the time he stands close to the plate, likes the ball middle in. If you can get your breaking ball on the outer half, or if you do come inside, you come in off the plate. You can get him on split fingers if you throw them low, but you can also pop a fastball on the outer half, and maybe that'll get him.
Got him. Strikeout number 4, and there's that pitch on the outer half you were talking about. The bottom dropped out of it.
Mitchell strikes out for the second time on the evening, and the good cutter from Gardner gets Mitchell swinging, and that is where he's most vulnerable. Take a look from the computer. About 83 miles an hour. The 4-inch break off the plate a little bit. Didn't light up the box, but Mitchell swung at it anyway.
Sanders has walked and doubled and scored. In the second, when he walked, he was later thrown out trying to steal. Ball 1.
Reggie Sanders been a hot hitter as of late too, Jay. Hit in 5 of his last 7 games, 10 for 26, a 385 average. The double back in the 4th inning has raised his average to 279.
Popped up into short right. Barbary ranging out, makes the play. Cincinnati's leading 3-0. Here's the Cuprinol on deck circle. Cuprinol, maker of fine wood stains, sealers, and preservatives. Well, Billy the Marlins got himself a new toy. Look here. Looked like he's driving in Indianapolis there.
His own autograph model there, Jay.
Yeah, the Marlin Mobile.
The Marlin, Billy the Marlin Mobile. But the Reds bullpen was ready for him. They had a big bucket of water ready to douse him with, but he went out.
He went out too close.
Yeah, no.
They're waiting on him down there, though, tonight.
He didn't want to get his little race car wet, or he didn't want anything to happen to it, to blow it up. I mean, he just got it, right?
Right. Santiago grounded out in the second inning, comes to the plate for the second time in this 3-0 game. 3-5-0 for Cincinnati, 0-3-0 for Florida. Santiago, Abbott, and Barbary. The bouncer to Fernandez. His throw in plenty of time. And Santiago 0 for 2, both times out third to first.
Quite a contrast in pitches, Jay. Gardner's thrown 103. Roper's thrown just 49.
Kurt Abbott grounded out in the second inning. Baltimore hits Seattle with 4 runs in the bottom of the 4th, lead 5-1 at Baltimore. Abbott went around, strike 1.
The pitcher who popularized the knuckle curve that comes to mind right away was Bert Hooton from the Dodgers, and a guy who I caught for a number of years, Dan Schatzeder.
Fernandez to Morris. 2 gone. Brett Barbary bats with nobody on and 2 out.
A lot of ground ball outs. Take a look at the boss.
Mr. Huizinga. That's Richard Anderson there on the right.
There's only been 1 fly ball out, and that was Gary Sheffield back in the 4th.
Mr. Huizinga spending a couple of days up in North Carolina and spending some time with Don Shula, of course. Here's one deep, and it is hauled in out there by Deion Sanders on the warning track. Barbary hit that ball a long, long way. Cincinnati leads 3-0. We'll return after this from Gatorade. Cincinnati's leading 3-0. Billy's entertaining here. He's got his water gun and having some fun, and you can have some fun, all you fans. An open house this Saturday at the Miami Arena from 10 to 2 for those interested in selecting their 94-95 season tickets. Enter the north lobby of the arena. Panther representatives will show you the various seats that are available. Saturday from 10 to 2, open house at the Miami Arena, and a great opportunity for you to be set to sit in on the Panthers next season. Here's Tony Fernandez. And he hits one into the gap in right center, and it's going to go to the wall, bounds out, taken out there by Carr, and Fernandez has himself a stand-up triple.
This ball was hit a long way. First pitch hitting off of Gardner, the fastball, and drills it way in to right center, bounding off the wall. By the time Carr got to it, I mean, Fernandez just cruised into third base, picks up his 4th triple on the year.
Infield is pulled in tight. Brett Boone at the plate. High, ball 1. Boone, who doubled, picked up 2 RBIs and later scored on Taubensie's double in the 4th. He had grounded out in the 2nd. Ball 2. 6 hits now for Cincinnati. Jeff Mutis, the left-hander, throwing in the bullpen. That's in there for a strike. Fernandez with his hitting streak now to 7 in a row. Swing and a miss. 2-2.
I still kind of think, Jay, that the Reds made out better than the Seattle Mariners in this trade involving Brett Boone and Eric Hansen. Bobby Ayala has become the stopper for the Mariners, and Dan Wilson is their everyday catcher. But still, overall, the production from both of the guys that the Reds got in Boone and Hansen, I have to say that they won out on that deal.
This fellow's just 25 years old. I think he's going to improve. The payoff pitch popped up into short right. Sheffield is coming, and Fernandez holds at third.
Well, the ball was definitely not hit deep enough. The infield was playing in. The one thing that Boone to do is pop the ball up, and just didn't hit it deep enough, and you have to still respect Gary Sheffield's arm.
That may be all for Gardner. Here comes manager Renee Latchman. And probably going to get Jeff Mutis into the game. Well, a tough night for Gardner. 3 runs on 6 hits. And of course he walked 6 and struck out 4. Jeff Mutis coming in, and with his pitching change, we'll take this timeout. Here at Joe Robbie Stadium, Marlins baseball on Sunshine. Cincinnati, Florida, 3-0 for Gardner, 5 1/3 innings, and he has given up 6 hits and 3 runs to this point. They were earned. 6 walks. He struck out 4. 110 pitches, 60 for strikes, and Fernandez at third belongs to Mark Gardner as Mutis comes on to pitch to Eddie Taubensee. And Taubensee tonight has singled, doubled, and picked up an RBI. Mutis 1-0, 4.85 ERA. He has no record against Cincinnati in his career. He has a 2.45 ERA against them, pitching 3 2/3 innings in 2 games and giving up 1 earned run. At the plate, Taubensee, whose batting average is up to 283, 2 for 2 tonight with the RBI. Again, the infield in tight.
Well, and I can understand this move right here. Rene Latchman going with the percentages, left-hander against left-hander, especially with the pitcher up next.
Mutis has struck out 21 in his last 26 innings. This down to Brown, holds the runner, throws on. And now if Mutis can get Roper, Fernandez would be stranded there at third and keep this a respectable situation at 3-0.
Well, and Roper did come into tonight's play with that 263 average and a couple of RBIs. His average down to 238 at this point.
Trying to bunt in the third. He fouled out to Santiago, made an outstanding play, and he struck out in the fourth, and he swings at the first offering from Mutis here in the 6th.
See, plays like this, if they can get out of this inning with the leadoff triple by Fernandez, that hopefully will spark them to come back in the bottom of the 6th.
Foul ball into the bullpen. Mutis out in front, 0-2. Foul back against the screen. Richie Lewis. Richie's letting his goatee grow there. That's high. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
That seems to be the fad these days, the goatee. Maybe you and I should grow one. What do you think?
No.
Come on.
You maybe, not me.
No, no, no.
And this is lined right to Barbary. So Mutis comes in and gets Taubensee and Roper. Fernandez is stranded at third. Now this from Toyota. Along with Gary Carter, this is Jay Randolph. We're headed to the bottom of the 6th here at JRS. And Roper. You see the pitches, and he's been pretty stingy since the first inning.
I'll say.
Nice job. This young fella, very talented, trying to win his 6th game without a defeat. Alex Arias, the pinch hitter. Oh, Mutis went 2/3. Did a nice job, came in and was able to get Taubensee and Roper, keep it a 3-0 game. Alex Arias as a pinch hitter is 5 for 16 with 5 RBIs. .312 as a pinch hitter. Overall on the year, batting .247. Over the last week, Arias is 3 for 8, .375. Caught the outside corner. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Alex Arias. Bottom of the 6th inning. Into center. Dion poised to make the play and does. Marlins Weekly every Sunday on Sunshine, hosted by Lou Palmer at 6 Eastern Time. Marlins Weekly. Cars grounded out in the first, reached on a fielder's choice in the third. 2 balls and whoa, that's a strike. 1 ball and 1 strike. Carr, a bounder to Boone. Quickly they're 2 gone. Chucky struggling at the plate over the last 10 days. Matthews, he'll be coming into the game. Jerry Brown is singled and hit into a double play. A strike at St. Louis. Cardinals lead 4-2. They're in the 2nd inning at Busch Stadium. The Astros and the Cardinals. Another play for Boone. Makes it look easy out there.
Boy, he's quick.
Yes, really gets rid of that ball fast. And the 6. 3-0 Cincinnati. Joe Robbie Stadium. Marlins baseball and tonight's Sherwin-Williams game summary. Brought to you by your local Sherwin-Williams paint store. Yes, indeed, the pros know. Ask Sherwin-Williams. Roper rolling along in fine fashion. Boone with the RBI double. Picking up 2 runs, 4 extra base hits for the Reds. 3-6-0 Cincinnati, 0-3-0 Marlins. And Terry Matthews, 1-1, 4.22 ERA. Has never faced the Cincinnati Reds before. Matthews will face Deion Sanders here to start the 7th inning. That's low for ball 1. The attendance here tonight, 25,365. That's inside. Foul outside at third. Brown, Abbott, Barbary, and Magadan on the infield. Conine, Carr, and Sheffield left to right. Three balls and 1 strike. Deion tonight has walked twice and popped out. Center field, Carr. He's there. Barry Larkin will bat with nobody on and 1 out. Larkin is struck out. Got an infield single that ricocheted off Gardner. He walked and stole a base in the 5th. Larkin is from Cincinnati, hometown hero, and a great role model. Wonderful young man. I hope you were able to catch Lou Palmer's interview with him on our pregame show tonight.
Yeah, he does a lot of fundraising in and around the local area. Good guy.
Yes, indeed. He talked about young Roper and gave us his thoughts regarding this fellow on the mound tonight for Cincinnati, who has done such a splendid job scattering 3 hits and shutting out the Marlins to this point. Foul back.
You know, granted, he has displayed and showed good stuff here tonight, but when you're on a roll, it just seems like the ball club plays well behind you, and that has been the case here tonight.
Well, these Reds are on a roll.
Yeah. Well, they only have 6 hits on the evening, but they do have the 3 runs. That was all coming in that 4th inning. 4 extra base hits out of the 6 hits. And that's all it's been so far. And the rest has been Mr. Roper.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Another foul out of play. There's Chris Hammond. We don't expect that he'll be pitching for at least 3 weeks, maybe longer. And of course, David Weathers there, who's had some tough times, recent outings. Out into the gap. Sheffield on the run. He's not going to get there. Another extra base hit. Ground rule double. Larkin was going for 3, had to stop as that ball hit up into the picnic area.
It didn't seem like at first that Larkin hit this ball that far. Once again, the juice ball theory comes into effect because that ball carried a long way, hitting on the warning track and bounding up into that picnic area. Larkin picks up his 15th double on the year.
And 5 of the 7 hits have been for extra bases. And here is Morris, who has walked, hit into a double play, and flied to left. Terry Matthews, the 3rd hurler of the evening for the Marlins. Out on the mound, in for a strike. Gardner went 5 1/3, gave up 3 runs on 6 hits. He struck out 4 and walked 6. Jeff Mutis came in, 2/3 of an inning, 0s across the board, getting the job done. Fouled against the screen. 0-2.
Morris's average on the year, 352 now, but he is hit just about the same here on the road. In all of his road games, 60 for 171, a 351 average. So he's right around the same mark in both places. Doesn't matter for Hal Morris. He's just a good pure hitter.
This crowd, 25,000 plus. Hasn't had much to cheer about as far as the Marlins go. Been a very quiet evening. Billy looking out at the scene. That's inside. 2-2. Out of play. Again, a reminder about tomorrow. No television of tomorrow's opening game against the Rockies, but it'll be Rich Scheid coming up from Edmonton to go against David Need. Need is 7-4. And of course, the series tomorrow through Sunday with the Rockies, then the All-Star break, and then it's out on the road for the longest road trip of the year to Atlanta, Cincinnati, and Colorado. Another foul.
And as I had mentioned in the previous game, talking about Hal Morris, his unorthodox type style, man can flat out hit. See the still approach there by Terry Matthews, setting, not moving his feet, but Hal Morris does a lot.
Down to first. Magadan makes the play as Larkin goes to third. 2 out. Up to Kevin Mitchell.
Ball ran in on Morris just a little bit, and that's where you try to get him, is pitches in. The easy play for Magadan.
Mitchell has struck out twice, grounded out once, 0 for 3 this evening. Outside for a ball. Matthews last pitched on the 27th at Philadelphia. That's right over the heart of the plate.
Take a look at the two computer strikeouts on Mitchell. One the fastball in, and the other one the breaking ball away. Strikeouts coming in the first and the 5th inning. That doesn't happen too often that you get Kevin Mitchell in, though.
Low, and 2 balls and 1 strike. Caught the outside corner. 2-2.
When Kevin Mitchell first came up with the Mets, Jay, he could play 5 positions and play them pretty well. Can you see Kevin Mitchell at this point in time being a shortstop?
No. He ate his way right out of that position.
I don't know about that. I don't know about eating, but he is some kind of strong.
He is strong. The big bopper fouls this one back against the screen. Remember, our All-Star special will come your way here on Sunshine on Monday, 8:30 in the evening, featuring Dave Dombrowski, Renee Latchman, Jeff Conine. Hope you can join us 8:30 Eastern Time Monday evening here on Sunshine. All-Star Eve. Another 2-2 pitch coming to Mitchell. Popped up right side. Let's see if Magadan has a play. No, it's going to be back about 4 rows.
And it was Davey Johnson that gave Kevin Mitchell the opportunity to play all of those positions. And he became all-world that year, being able to play as a utility player, and did a fine job in '86. And then they were reunited last year, had a few differences, worked things out, and Kevin Mitchell has really produced for Davey this year.
'89, he was the MVP. Remember that?
Oh, yes, I do.
Strikes out. I don't think Mitchell liked the call.
Well, he didn't think it was a strike. He's still arguing with Jeff Kellogg. He thought the ball was inside. That's 3 times on the evening for the big bopper.
Cincinnati leads 3-0. We'll be back with more right after this. Gary Sheffield at the plate as we go to the bottom of the 7th. Sheffield, Conine, and Magadan. Sheff is grounded out, flied to center. Young Mr. Roper rolling along out there with a fine performance. Ball 1 to Sheffield. A strike, 1 ball and 1 strike. Sheffield tonight 0 for 2, as we said. That's low. Sheff picks the ball up and hands it to Eddie Taubensee. This crowd of 25,000 plus trying to get something going.
Well, as Harry Carey would say it, right, Jay? For Pete's sake, let's get some runs.
Yeah, I guess that's, we heard him here one night say that, didn't we?
Yep.
Screaming and yelling.
Yeah, but for us Chicago Cubs, we're doing it for our Marlins here.
Yeah. I'll try anything at this point. Not much we can do, I'm afraid. Full count to Sheffield, leading it off here in the bottom of the 7th. Down 3. The walk to Sheffield. That is the first pass given up by John Roper. Conine is 1 for 2 on the evening. Jeff struck out in the first, singled in the 4th.
You have to admire Johnny Roper, 22 years of age, going with the 3-2 breaking ball, losing Sheffield, but he does have the 3-0 edge.
What a play. What a play by Fernandez. That was a very tough chance. He got to that ball and flipped in time for the force out.
Conine hits this ball down the line, but there's Fernandez's shortstop instincts as he flips the ball back to Brett Boone, and Brett was able to keep his toe on the bag to get Sheffield. Good play.
These Reds are playing excellent baseball these days. Dave Magadan is grounded out and hit into a double play. Strike on the inside corner. This copyrighted telecast presented by authority of the Marlins may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of the Florida Marlins. Jay Randolph and Gary Carter with you from JRS. High fly ball off the bat of Magadan. Mitchell. 2 gone.
Well, keep in mind, Jay, coming into tonight's play, the Reds were tied with St. Louis for 3rd best fielding in the league. So not only do they have the 2nd best pitching staff with that 3.71 ERA, which seems to be on its way down with the performance by Roper tonight, but also 1st in the league in hitting. So they've got all the areas covered.
Santiago has grounded out on 2 occasions, 3rd to 1st. High and ball 1.
Well, if there's one place that Benny Santiago likes to hit, it's right here at JRS. 38 for 124, a 306 average right here in his home cooking place to all of his friends, his mother, his everybody, right?
He's been very happy this season, and he certainly has turned up his play.
He's done a great job of throwing a couple of runners out tonight here too.
Sure has. This game would maybe be out of reach if it wasn't for that. This is Boone, and Santiago is 0 for 3 after popping out to the 2nd baseman. We'll be back right after this. Florida Marlins baseball. Joe Robbie Stadium, Sunshine Networks presentation, and the Cincinnati Reds leading 3-0. We're going to the top of the 8th inning. We'll be with you Friday evening, the Rockies and the Marlins. Lou Palmer's pregame show at 7. And of course on Saturday, same 2 teams, and we join you at 6:30, a half an hour earlier, with the pregame show. Those Rockies playing very well of late. Here's Reggie Sanders. He has walked, doubled and scored, and popped out. Ball 1 from Terry Matthews, the 3rd hurler of the evening for the Marlins. Mark Gardner started. He was followed by Mutis. Fouled away at the plate. 1 ball and 1 strike. Well, they're in the 9th inning at Atlanta, and the Braves are leading it 3-2 after losing the first game 3-1 to the Pirates. Colorado beat Chicago 7-1. San Diego over Philadelphia 5-2. In the Houston-St. Louis game at Busch Stadium, St. Louis, third inning. Cardinals 5, Houston 2. New York at San Francisco, Montreal at LA later. 2 balls and 1 strike. 2-2. At Detroit, Tigers are leading 1-0 over the White Sox, 7th inning. California 4-2 over the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. They're in the 9th inning there. Into left field. Conine gets there. That ball really got out there quickly, right at Conine. Reggie Sanders lines out.
You could hang some clothes on this line drive. This ball was roped, but Conine right there to haul it in.
Tony Fernandez has grounded out. In the 4th, he walked and scored. In the 6th, he had a leadoff triple and was stranded. California at Boston. It is 5-4 Boston. They're going to the 7th inning at Fenway Park. The Cleveland Indians,
How about those guys?
after 2 innings at Texas, lead 10-1. Those 2 clubs both with new stadiums this year, Cleveland and Texas. And those Cleveland Indians have got a lot of their faithful rejuvenated along the lakefront in Ohio. They are really loving it up there. Right over the heart of the plate. 1 ball and 2 strikes. In the Milwaukee-Kansas City game at Kansas City, it's 2-2. And they are in the 7th. Good look at Matthews. Fly ball center field. Off the bat of Fernandez. Chucky Carr is there. Oh, with 2 gone, it'll be Brett Boone to come to the plate.
Well, you're right, Jay. New parks do bring good things to ball clubs. The Cleveland Indians leading in their division, also the Texas Rangers. So when Blockbuster Park is built some 8 to 10 years from now, that'll be about the time then the Marlins, I guess, will find them ways into first place and be up there in contention, as Mr. Dombrowski has talked about, telling how this ball club is going to continue to improve. And
well, I don't think it'll take 10 years. What do you think?
No, not to win. I'm not saying that. It's like, well, look at Cleveland.
That's right.
Since 1954, right?
Right.
They've been dying to have a championship.
That's right.
And this is just the 2nd year of the Marlins. Oh, they're going to be a much better ball club in the next couple of years. I mean, I'm not talking about a championship. I'm saying about a new ballpark and how it will bring the best out of them.
Yeah. Should be very nice when it all happens and falls into place. The last time Cleveland was a contending team, Jimmy Dudley was broadcasting the Indians.
Jimmy Dudley.
I remember.
Well, that's a name
as
of
a
the
kid.
past.
He was a lot of fun to listen to. Jimmy Dudley. Whoa, a swing and a miss. And that will do it. As Boone strikes out. 2nd strikeout for Matthews. After 7.5 at JRS, 3-0 Cincinnati. It's 3-0 Cincinnati. Before we head to the bottom of the 8th, tonight's stroke of brilliance is brought to you by your participating Benjamin Moore paint dealers, and it comes in the 4th inning. Young Brett Boone at the plate, and a double down the line in left, and 2 RBIs. Boone would score later. RBIs number 46 and 47. That's our Benjamin Moore stroke of brilliance from the bat of Brett Boone. Abbott to lead it off here in the bottom of the 8th is grounded out twice. John Roper. And moments ago, Billy Marlin
You don't think this ball club is loose, the Cincinnati Reds?
They're having fun. Jose Rio and the gang down there really got Billy good, and that foul ball off the, I think, the mask of Taubensee.
Correct.
There's the guys down there. They've been laying in wait for Billy.
Well, they couldn't get him when he came out in his new race car.
That's right.
They didn't get him when he came out in Billy Marlin's car.
This will get in there. All right. Kurt Abbott with a leadoff single.
Well, that'll bring on some cheers from this crowd here at JRS.
Fourth hit for the Marlins.
Running fastball in on Abbott. Doesn't hit it very hard, but just gets it out and over Brett Boone. Falls in front of Reggie Sanders there, and look at how Billy the Marlin reacted. He wanted to hug him.
I don't think they want to hug him in his condition.
No, well, he's all messed up there.
He needs a shower. Brett Barbary has singled and flied to center. Final score at Atlanta. The Braves split the doubleheader, winning the second game 4-2 after losing the first 3-1. And it gets by Larkin. On to third comes Abbott. Abbott, nice job of base running there as he had the play in front of him. Runners at the corners, nobody out. And Matias Carrillo will come out to pinch hit.
And a good line drive off the bat of Barbary going opposite field. Larkin made a fine effort, but it glanced off of his glove and on into left field. That allowed Abbott to go all the way to third base. Now runners at the corners with nobody out. And as you like to call him, the Matador coming to the plate.
And Matias represents the tying run.
Well, the Reds, after 7 innings, they are 38-2 when leading. After 8 innings, they're 39-0.
Here is Carrillo, 3 for 16 as a pinch hitter, batting .275.
So if there's ever a time to get him, it's right here, Jay.
Fly ball into center field. Abbott is coming home, 3-1. Carrillo with a sac fly and the RBI.
First pitch hitting, gets a fastball out over the plate, able to drive it deep enough to score Abbott. Sanders had no thoughts of trying to throw to the plate and holds Barbary at first base. Now Don Gullett on his way to the mound. And while that's all going, the Reds bullpen will get busy, and Jeff Brantley will start things down there.
For Carrillo, 7 RBIs on the year with that sac fly. There's Brantley. Matias. Oh, the Marlins have broken through here in the bottom of the 8th. 1 on and 1 out for Chucky Carr. Carr has put the ball on the ground 3 times. He reached on a fielder's choice in the 3rd, grounded out in the 1st and in the 6th. Hits this into the hole. Now the tying runs are on, and the go-ahead run will be at the plate with Jerry Brown.
Well, it'll be interesting if Davey Johnson stays with Roper at this point. Chuck Carr finds a hole to the left, to the right side. Barbary had to hold up, and just as I said, Johnson on his way to the hill to pull his pitcher. A fine performance, though, by Johnny Roper, who went 7 1/3 innings, allowed the 6 hits, 1 run to this point. It was earned, 1 walk, just 1 strikeout, and threw 81 pitches.
And a pitching change here in the bottom of the 8th. Back with more in a moment. Here at JRS, Sunshine Network's presentation of Marlins baseball, 3-1. Jeff Brantley Native of Florence, Alabama, comes on. Earned his 10th save of the season in Sunday's game with the Pirates. His career high in saves came back in 1990 when he recorded 19 for the San Francisco Giants. He has recorded 2 saves against Florida this season. Brantley has 43 strikeouts in his 44 innings pitched. Signed as a free agent in January. And they're still active down in the bullpen.
Chuck McElroy is the left-hander, and Hector Carrasco, who threw 3 innings in the first ball game, is just lightly tossing.
Barbary at second and Carr at first for Jerry Brown. Brown tonight is 1 for 3. Singled in the first, hit into a double play in the third, grounded out 4-3 in the sixth. Foul back. Jerry Brown has 18 multi-hit games coming into tonight. A little bingo right here would make that 19 and keep it going. Foul back against the screen, and Brantley is out in front 0-2. And down he goes. A big strikeout for Brantley.
And something that doesn't happen too often to Jerry Brown. That's only his 17th strikeout, Jay, on the year.
A lot of movement on that pitch.
A lot of movement. Well, Brantley does have a good live fastball. He does have a big curveball and the split finger. As we take a look at Yorkis Perez down in the Marlins pen.
Taubensee went out to have a chat with Brantley. Here's Sheffield. Sheff tonight is 0 for 2. He's grounded out, flied to center, and walked. Strike one.
Well, the big fly right here, Jay, could put the Marlins in front. Sheffield, a .362 average with runners in scoring position, 5 home runs, 17 RBIs. But with 2 outs, he is hitting just .200 with 5 RBIs, but does have the 3 home runs. So this would be the great time to have it happen.
He steps out.
These are the kind of situations that you dream of, you thrive on, you hope that you can come up in these situations.
Strike on the inside corner, and Brantley out in front 0-2.
After starting Sheffield off with the curveball, the fastball tailing in. Take a look at the computer, 90 miles an hour, didn't light the box up, didn't matter. Jeff Kellogg called it a strike. 29 of Gary Sheffield's 57 hits, Jay, on the year have gone for extra bases. 11 doubles, 1 triple, and 17 big flies.
Inside, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Barbary's at second and Carr over at first. Marlins have a run across here in the bottom of the 8th. Two and two. There are the runners again, Barbary and Carr. Up the middle. Here comes Barbary. It's 3-2. scores at third. Sheffield picking up his 45th RBI of the season.
Well, and just as I said, Jay, these are the kind of situations and opportunities that you dream of. And Sheffield comes through in a big way, pulling the Marlins to within one, lining that one right up the center, scoring Barbary easily.
Carr is down there at third. He represents the tying run. Sheffield represents the go-ahead run. Here's Conine. He's 1 for 3. Conine hits a little blooper out into left, and it is going to fall in. It's lost out there. Carr comes home. Sheffield's at third. It's a tie game. Not a very good effort by Mitchell out there. A 3-3 game.
Conine jammed on the pitch, and he was just hoping that it would fall in. I think what happened, Mitchell slid too early and just realized he couldn't get to it. The ball falling just in front of him, and that's going to score Carr. That also sends Sheffield to third base, and the winning run or go-ahead run is just 90 feet away.
For Conine, RBI number 62 on the year. And Dave Magadan, who is 0 for 3, has a chance to give the Marlins the lead here in the bottom of the 8th inning. Runners at the corners. Strike on the outside corner to Magadan.
CJ, all we needed to do was talk about new stadiums and all. Coming in here to Joe Robbie, talking about this new stadium and what they've done. Spectacular job here. And then all of a sudden the excitement came back. Outstanding.
Good comeback here. Let's see if Magadan can keep it going. Magadan hits it deep to right. Sanders is there. Magadan got a lot of wood on it, but Reggie Sanders was able to run it down. But it's a whole new ball game after 8 innings. 3-3. We're going into the ninth, tied at 3. The 94 Florida Marlins yearbook features great color photos of the Marlin players, plus a 12-page insider's guide to the top minor league prospects. For your copy, send $8.95 to Marlins yearbook, box 9828, Fort Lauderdale, Florida 33310. The Florida Marlins yearbook. Yorkis Perez, 2-0, 3.38 ERA. This is his 30th appearance of the season.
And Jacob Brumfield, Jay, is going to hit for Eddie Taubensee, and I'm sure we're going to see a pinch hitter also for Jeff Brantley.
Brumfield is 2 for 16 as a pinch hitter, batting .229 on the year. One strike from Yorkis Perez. A 1.93 ERA in 4 games in his career against Cincinnati. He has no record against them. That's a little low. Yorkis activated from the disabled list on the 30th. Brumfield fouls it into the seats in right.
You know, in talking to all of the ball players that have come in here to JRS, they do like playing here. It would be kind of sad to see the new Blockbuster Park come about and then not be able to enjoy the so-called friendly confines here, as they have been calling them. But Mr. Huizinga, he wants to do that. He wants to build this new park that's going to be the ambience of Camden Yards and the nuances of Toronto.
Yep.
With the Sky Dome.
Probably in '98.
Yep, somewhere around there, huh?
But this is so great job they've done here.
Oh, this is a spectacular park. I'd have loved to have played here.
You see Robbie Nen in the pen as that one's fouled out of play. 2-2 the count to Brumfield. Pinch hitting here to start the 9th inning in this 3-3 game.
Well, in talking to Dave Dombrowski also, Jay, he said that there probably was not going to be a lot of things going on over the All-Star break. But as the second half unfolds, he said that there might be times that they will take a look at some of the minor league players, but are really going to bank on the players that are presently here, go with them for as long as they can until they feel like they need to head into the minor leagues.
Hector Carrasco heating up for Cincinnati. Two balls and 2 strikes to Brumfield. Got him. Perez took something off of it. Brumfield now chatting with Jeff Kellogg. Not for very long, though.
Didn't think it was a strike, but the breaking ball, and it just appears like it did catch the corner, Jay. Take another look at the computer. Brumfield didn't think so at all, but I think it hit the box. Yes, it did. Thank you very much. 5-inch break, about 80 miles an hour.
And the pinch hitter.
This is his first at bat, Jay.
This is Steve Pegwis. And it's low. Spells his name P-E-G-U-E-S. He's an outfielder. And it's pronounced Pegues, I understand.
Well, he was brought up to take the place of Jerome Walton, who was put on the disabled list.
He was hitting .290 with 16 doubles and 11 triples and 6 home runs and 29 RBIs for Indianapolis this season. Pegues swings and misses.
So, like we like to say, Johnny New Guy is at the plate.
That's what you guys call him, isn't it, when they came up, huh? This fella hit .352 with 9 homers and 50 RBIs for Las Vegas last season. 2-2 to Pegues. Just missed outside. Full count. Slap foul.
And now we'll finish all the line scores on Roper and Brantley. Roper went 7 1/3, allowed all 3 of the Marlins runs, 6 hits, 1 strikeout, 1 base on balls. For Brantley, he picks up the 1 strikeout, working 2/3 of an inning, but lost the save, allowing the RBI singles to Sheffield and to Conine.
All the runs charged to Roper, so he cannot win this game. He cannot lose it. A 3-3 game. 9th inning. The 3-2 pitch and the walk to Pegues. Back to the top of the order to Deion Sanders. Deion tonight has walked twice, popped out and flied to center. Folks from Dayton here, huh? It's down the road from Cincinnati. Strike on the outside corner. Houston and St. Louis are 5-5 going to the 5th inning at St. Louis. Here it's 3-3. Another strike. Oh, 0-2 to Dion.
Sanders looking down to Ray Knight. He's not going to get any help there. York is painting 2 picture perfect strikes. Sanders went back to regroup. See what he does here.
Just missed low. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Dion, since he's joined the Reds, has batted .309. Runner at first, 1 out.
Well, I don't understand that, Jay. The 0-2 count, squaring around a bunt. Either that or he just doesn't feel very confident against the left-hand pitching Yorkis Perez.
He's out. And Jeff Kellogg has had the Reds beefing a little bit here in the last couple of innings. Dion is hot.
Well, I don't understand why he's that hot, because look at how he starts to attempt to go after the ball. It looked like it was a pretty good pitch anyway, breaking across the plate, but look at how he starts to jab at it, pulls it back at the end, and when you disguise something like that, Jay, you're not going to get the call.
No,
he was hoping that he was going to ask Brian Gorman down at third base for the appeal, but Kellogg made the call.
Here is Larkin, 2 for 3. A strike to Larkin. Larkin struck out in the first. He hit a line drive that ricocheted off Gardner for a hit in the third. Walked and stole a base in the fifth. Got a ground rule double in the seventh. Larkin's average up to .289. Pegues is running. It's fouled away.
Oh, and he had a huge jump at first base. If Larkin did not swing, I think he would have had the base stolen.
Looking ahead to the bottom of the ninth, Santiago, Abbott, and Barbary are due. Hopefully more, whatever it takes. A 3-3 game. Marlins have now out-hit Cincinnati 8-7. 3 runs on 3 hits in the 4th inning for Cincinnati. The Marlins coming back to tie on 5 hits in the 8th.
Well, and Jay, if there's been one thing that the Marlins have done, they've had a flair for the dramatic. 12 of the Marlins' 37 wins have come in their final at bat, including 5 game-ending hits right here at JRS.
The 0-2 count on Barry Larkin. Yorkis throws over again. Pegues, the newcomer, there at first. Play made by Brown in time. So we'll go to the bottom of the ninth here, tied up at 3. A 3-3 game to the bottom of the ninth inning, and a new battery for Cincinnati. Brian Dorsett behind the plate. And on the mound, Hector Carrasco. He earned the save Monday by pitching 3 innings of 2-hit, 1-run ball. The 1 run unearned. Hector's second on the Reds in saves with 5. He was on the DL earlier. He's a former Marlin property and made the jump from Class A Kane County to the majors this season. Santiago stands in. Benny today grounded out twice and popped out. High to Santiago. Ball 2. Benny had a big cut, came up empty. Santiago leading off the ninth. Carrasco following Roper and Brantley to the mound for Cincinnati. Foul back, 2-2. Struck him out. And now Benny is jawing with Kellogg. Manager Latchman coming out. Here it is.
Carrasco staying with the breaking ball here. Looks like it caught the corner. Kellogg thought so, but Benny obviously did not.
Kurt Abbott, 1 for 3 this evening. Tough bounce. Larkin handled it well. Good play by Larkin. Little bit of an in-between hop for Larkin, but he made the play. Brett Barbary is 2 for 3 this evening.
And one of the reasons Larkin is an all-star is plays like this. The backhanded grab had to come up on it a little bit, and then the strong throw onto Morris to get Abbott by a step.
Barbary flies it deep to left into the seats. Greg Colbrin has come out on deck. Barbary's average up to 266. There's Colbrin. Chopper to Boone. We're going to extra innings here at JRS. The Marlins and the Reds tied at 3. 9-2 the record. Well, first of all, 3-0 the record for Florida. 9-2 for the Reds. Hal Morris, Kevin Mitchell, Reggie Sanders. Strike 1 from Yorkis Perez. Perez following Gardner, Mutis, and Matthews to the mound for the Marlins. Swing and a miss, 0-2. Hal Morris traded to the Reds from the Yankees after the '89 season. Rob Nen up again and throwing in the bullpen for the Marlins. Bob McClure alongside there, the bullpen coach. High and tight, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Final at New York in Yankee Stadium. Oakland 4, New York 2. Foul into the seats at Boston, California, playing the Red Sox. It is 10-6 California. Red Sox batting in the bottom of the 8th. Milwaukee at Kansas City, a 2-2 tie. They're in the 8th. It's raining at Baltimore. That's high. That's Seattle playing at Baltimore, and Baltimore is leading it 5-1 in the 7th. Take it easy with that youngster there. Gee whiz. She's really rocking him. And a swing and a miss. The third strikeout for Yorkis Perez.
A good breaking ball. Morris swings right through it. Perez again establishing the good fastball early and then finishing him off with the breaking ball. Computer look. Yep, it lit up the box. A 6-inch break. Good pitch, Yorkis.
Here's Mitchell. He has struck out 3 times. He has grounded out. And the last time he was at the plate, he got into it with Jeff Kellogg. One and one.
Well, he had a rip at that one. But you know that Mitchell does have a small chip fracture at the base of his first metatarsal, the long bone of the foot that runs from the ankle to the toe. And one of the reasons that he sat out the first couple of games, or the first game, he did play in last night's game.
This is going to be back and in the seats.
But he did miss a couple of games before that. He has been hampered by some injuries in the past few years.
Where's that brace on his left foot?
Well, that was made up by one of the, I guess it was bullpen catcher Bill Driesbach's shin guards that they broke down, cut him up, and fitted it just so it would help Kevin Mitchell.
A fine play by Brown. A hot shot down to Brown. He handled it nicely. 2 gone.
And after the big game from Mitchell last night with a couple of big home runs, 0 for 5 tonight, but the fine play by Brown to get Mitchell by plenty.
The Governor. Reggie Sanders has walked, doubled and scored, popped out and lined to left. Bats with nobody on and 2 out. We're in the 10th inning if you just joined us. Swing and a miss. The Cincinnati Reds broke open a scoreless game in the 4th inning. 3 runs on 3 hits. Highlighted by a double and 2 RBIs by Brett Boone, who later scored on Eddie Taubensie's double. The Marlins tied it with 3 runs on 5 hits in the 8th. Foul outside of third. Cleveland's playing at Texas. They're in the 4th inning now, and Cleveland leads 11-1. Minnesota 5, Toronto 2. They're in the 8th inning at Minnesota. Milwaukee leads Kansas City 4-3. 9th inning at Kansas City. The 0-2 pitch. Lined over Barbary. 2-out single for Reggie Sanders. Sanders on the night is 2 for 4. Sanders representing the go-ahead run in this 3-3 game.
Fought off a very tough pitch, the breaking ball down and in, and went opposite field. And just over the outstretched glove of Brett Barbary.
In the 4th, he walked and scored. He tripled and was stranded at third in the 6th and flied to center in the 8th. He's extended his hitting streak to 7. Earlier this year, he had an 11-game hitting streak. Low for ball 1. Over to first.
Don't want to take Reggie Sanders for granted either. 17 stolen bases on the year. Earlier, Santiago threw him out on a fine throw.
Fernandez filling the void, of course, on this Cincinnati club, left by the departure of Chris Sabo. Sabo's been a little unhappy at times this season, but you know, that's the way it goes, I guess.
Played a few times in the outfield, left field, right field. Been playing a little bit lately at third base with Gomez injured a little bit. But you're right, Jay. Sometimes it can't just all be wine and roses.
No, indeed. Nobody ever said it was going to be easy. Ray Knight coaching at third. 1 ball and 1 strike. Hit into right. Sanders on his way to third. Runners at the corners with 2 gone. Fernandez has been tough. And now the go-ahead run at third with 2 out.
And a good job of going opposite field, as Fernandez will do from time to time. Sheffield had no chance at Sanders. He did not stop, rounding second base and going on to third. Now Rene Lashman on his way to the hill. That's going to be it for Yorkis, and looks like Mario Diaz is also coming on, so the double switch in order. Pitcher spot is due up first in the bottom of the 10th.
Diaz takes over at second for Barbary. Yorkis Perez is leaving, and here comes Rob Nin, and we'll be back after these messages. Here at Joe Robbie Stadium, Diaz has come into the game at second base, replacing Barbary, and he will lead off the bottom of the 10th for the Marlins, batting in the number 9 spot. Rob Nin is the new pitcher, and Nin will be inserted into the 8th slot. Nin is 1-0 in his career against Cincinnati. He leads the Marlins relief staff with 41 strikeouts in 41 and a third innings pitched. Has a very fine 2.43 ERA in his last 25 games. There's Diaz out there at second. Nin pitched against these Reds on the 4th. 1/3 of an inning. Gave up 3 hits and 2 runs. Here is Brett Boone. Boone is grounded out. He's doubled, picked up a couple of RBIs and scored. He's flied to right and struck out. Fouls it back. Sanders at third, Fernandez at first with 2 out. We're in the 10th inning, a 3-3 game if you just turned the set on. Marlins coming back to tie this game in the 8th inning with 3 runs. Cincinnati got their 3 runs in the 4th. At last pitch at 97 miles per hour. 1 ball and 1 strike to Brett Boone. A little high. 2 balls and 1 strike.
Yeah, I'd have to say that Robbie Nin has come in here a little bit pumped up, wants to redeem himself from the other day when Reggie Sanders took him yard and Tony Fernandez hit a double, also Thomas Howard, and that accounted for a couple.
Popped up into short right. Diaz makes the play, and Diaz will be first up when we come back with the bottom of the 10th right after this. Well, it's a nice evening here. Nice and cool for that lady. Brought her fan with her. 3-3 the score. Mario Diaz will lead it off.
Number 29, Mario Diaz.
Batting .393. This fellow is toiling with the Red Sox minor league club at Pawtucket. Signed by the Marlins on the 29th of May. Took his release because he hadn't been called up by the Red Sox. Just low, 1 ball and 1 strike. Against right-handed pitching, he's batting .600 this year. Bangs this one right back to Carrasco. Hit it hard, but right back to the pitcher, who throws on. 1 out.
Quick reactions by Carrasco. The hot shot, and right there, looked back to Diaz, taunted him a little bit, and then fired on to Morris.
Good look at Hector Carrasco, former Marlin property. Chuck Carr tonight is 1 for 4. Singled and scored in the 8th inning. And it gets off the glove of Larkin, and Carr is at first. Well, I don't know whether Larkin took his eye off that ball for a moment or he slipped a little bit, but we'll see how they rule on it.
It could be an error because the ball was in the air, but I think he thought it was going to short hop him, and it caught him a little bit in between. Nothing has been ruled as of yet. Yeah, I kind of thought that they were going to give it an error. Yeah, that was
more importantly. Carr is at first, representing the winning run. Here's Jerry Brown, is singled, hit into a double play, grounded out and struck out. Carr at first with 1 out. Bottom of the 10th inning in a 3-3 game. Low for ball 1. Marlins undefeated in extra inning games, 3-0 this year. Carr gets back. Cookie Rojas down there at third. The governor at the plate. Time call. Wheels are turning here in the bottom of the 10th inning with Carr at first and Brown at the plate. Three runs, 9 hits and 1 error for the Reds. 3-8-0 for Florida.
Seems as though the Reds are playing Jerry Brown very deep in the outfield. Does not have a stolen base. Oh boy, this is a break.
A big break. It puts the winning run at second. They called for the pitch out, and Dorsett let that high pitch get away from him. It didn't look to be that tough a catch.
Well, and Chuck Carr was not going either. He should have caught it, but you see he was looking at the runner, and instead the ball caromed off the top of his glove, and now Carr in scoring position. The outfield's still the same. Mitchell way deep in left field. That is very surprising, especially now with the winning run standing on second base.
It's ruled a pass ball.
Oh, it has to be.
Yep. And a big error on the part of Dorsett. Carr out there at second. 2 balls and no strikes. That caught the inside corner. Chuck Carr carrying the winning run here in the bottom of the 10th. Low. 3 balls and 1 strike. Three and 2. Sheffield is on deck. Hector Carrasco out there for Cincinnati.
Well, when Chuck Carr scores, Jay, the club's 21-10, including wins in 17 of the last 25 games he has scored in. So come on, Chuck.
Here's the walk to Brown. And a visit. Don Gullett. The Cincinnati pitching coach talking things over. The score 3-3. Chuck Carr is the main man at second base. Brown's over there at first, but that doesn't matter. 10th inning. Jeff Kellogg going out to break up this conference. Davey Johnson sent his pitching coach out there, Don Gullett, to have a little chat with Carrasco. Rene Latchman. Wins have been hard to come by. The Marlins battling back to tie it in the 8th here, 3-3 in extra innings. Carr out there at second, Sheffield at the dish. Inside for ball 1. Sheffield tonight is 1 for 3. He singled and picked up an RBI in the 8th. Ball 2.
I would say that one of the things that were set out on the mound from Don Gullett was to maybe try and keep the fastball in on Sheffield. Probably one of the reasons why he was knocked off the plate on the first pitch.
Ball 3. No activity in the Reds bullpen. It's come down to Carrasco and Sheffield right here. The base is loaded. The winning run at third with Chuck Carr. And Conine will come to the plate.
I'm sure that's exactly what Davey Johnson did not want to see happen. I saw the flash of having the infield play back at double play depth with 1 out. Conine just needs the fly ball. They are playing shallow to try and prevent the run scoring from third.
It's low, ball 1. Conine is 2 for 4 with an RBI this evening. Brett Boone coming in from second to have a word with Carrasco. Chucky Carr. He carries the winning run down there at third. Foul back against the screen.
Conine is 2 for 9, Jay, with the bases loaded with 8 RBIs.
And now they're throwing in the bullpen. Chuck McElroy just got up down there.
I'm sure the reason for that is if Carrasco can get Conine out, he will come in to face Magadan. All that's going to do is have Rene Latchman bring on Greg Colbran.
That caught the outside corner. Conine couldn't pull the trigger. 1 ball and 2 strikes. bases loaded. Carr's the man at third. 3-3 game, bottom of the 10th inning. Conine, high fly ball, and there will be no play. Conine picked up his 62nd RBI of the season with a single in the 8th. Marlins tied this game in the 8th inning, 3 runs and 5 hits. Cincinnati picked up 3 runs on 3 hits in the 4th. Conine steps back in against Carrasco. Outside, 2-2.
Boy, and a good stop by Dorsett to be able to keep the ball in front of him. Tough pitch to handle there. Now Carrasco in danger, running the count to 2-2 of even walking Jeff Conine.
Conine pops it up behind second. Boone. Oh, it'll be up to Magadan. There is Carr.
The good riding fastball. You see how Conine was upset. Carrasco was covering behind Dorsett, and it seemed like he might have done something to his leg or his foot.
May have twisted an ankle just a little bit. He walked back out there and seems to be all right now, although he looked to the dugout, looking over there at Carr. And now Davy Johnson coming out.
And I think he's just asking Jeff Kellogg if he can check on his pitcher, Carrasco, just to make sure that he's okay. Greg Lynn, the head trainer, comes out to check things out just to see if Carrasco is okay.
Well, they picked up exactly what our cameras picked up, that
Yep.
he was limping there for a second.
Seemed like he jammed or jarred his heel, or as you might have said, Jay, that it might have been his ankle. But that last pitch was 97 miles an hour by Carrasco and induced Conine to pop the ball up in the infield. A key situation, key play, and Davy Johnson not going to waste any time. He is going to go to the bullpen and bring in McElroy to face Magadan, but it's not going to probably be Magadan. And I would venture to say that Rene might counteroffer and bring in Colbran. Why not?
Well, with his pitching change, Carrasco leaving. We'll be right back. Florida Marlins baseball. Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami on sunshine, and a good one going here. We're in the bottom of the 10th. 3-3. And we have a new second baseman for the Cincinnati Reds. Branson taking over out there, and Branson will bat in the number 9 slot. The new pitcher McElroy will bat in the number 7 position as Boone is out of the game. The numbers on Chuck McElroy. He pitched a third of an inning in Sunday's win in Pittsburgh. He's allowed only 10 runs in 46 innings pitched all season for a 1.96 ERA. And he has given up only 33 hits, and opponents are hitting just .204 against him. Greg Colbran is the pinch hitter. Colbran right up the middle. There it is. Carr comes home, and the Marlins win it 4-3. Colbran swinging at the first pitch. That ball got by McElroy into center field. Happiness reigns here at JRS, and they give him a 10 on that play. Nen is the winner. he's 3-4. The loser, Carrasco, he's 4-5. Marlins are 4-0 in extra inning games.
And Colburn gets the pitch he likes and drills it up the middle. And here comes Chucky, the game winner.
We'll be back with the Marlins postgame show right after this.